Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Saez. Today, I have a very good episode for you. I'm not going to lie to you. There's some shit out there right now that's going to happen that's just, quite frankly, ridiculous, and I need to just call it out and address it. First things first, everyone knows about the Teofimo Lopez versus George Gambosos fight that's going to happen on Triller. You heard about the purse bid. You heard about how Teofimo Lopez took control of his career, felt slighted after the Lomachenko payment he received, and bet on himself to make sure that he would never get shortchanged again in negotiations for a fight. So, as you know, Triller paid a record, in my opinion, on purse bid where they almost tripled the next bidder's purse bid. Everyone was like, wow, Teofimo Lopez, good for you. You bet on yourself. Even me, I was congratulatory of the kid for making a gamble, and the gamble paid off. However, you have to realize when you try to disrupt an industry, you're going to piss off a lot of the gatekeepers and a lot of the old guard of the boxing world. Top Rank is not going to just lie down and let a young up and coming champion like Teofimo Lopez disrespect them. I mean, Bob Arum has been in the game forever. He's at the end of his run as a promoter. He doesn't give a fuck, and he's showing that now. I'm kind of pissed off because Manny Pacquiao has been just throwing curveballs left and right about who he's fighting, and it's just really, at this point, annoying. You've heard he was going to fight Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was kind of talking about how he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao and he was going to do this, he was going to do that. But then that ended up being fake, ended up not being the case. People were very upset about it and it wasn't well received. So then Mikey Garcia was talking about how he's going to fight Manny Pacquiao and it was almost a done deal. Contracts were sent out, all these things. That ended up being a lie. Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was a lie. It was probably true because Mikey Garcia, for the most part, is pretty credible. I know him not to really talk trash. And look, he's a prominent fighter with a great career. And look, I like Mikey, so I'm not going to sit here and say it was a lie. I take that back. But curveball again. Evidently, it's announced that Terrence Crawford is going to fight Manny Pacquiao in Dubai on June 5th. And guess what's on June 5th? The Teofimo Lopez versus George Gambosos. Now, I never would have thought that Bob Arum would not only try to self sabotage his own fighters, both of them, not one, but both. Terrence Crawford is his number one pound for pound fighter for sure in his stable, right? Number one pound for pound fighter in his stable, guarantee for sure. Best fighter on his roster, right? You can argue Teofimo Lopez is a great fighter, but when you look at the accolades, the career, and just the accomplishments of Terrence Crawford while he was moving up, you got to give it to Crawford, right? But Teofimo Lopez is his undisputed champion at 135, arguably one of the hottest, no longer a prospect, hottest fighter in the game. And sure, he didn't fall in line and say, "Hey, I'm going to take the 2 million that you want to give me, or 1 million to fight George Gombosos." But to 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 stage a major pay per view with your ex pound for pound fighter Manny Pacquiao just to screw over Teofimo Lopez, my God, like boxing's literally like a telenovela. Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford is a substantial fight. It's something that everybody's going to watch. I mean, Manny Pacquiao's box office and can sell by himself, but if there's an opponent that they feel that Manny Pacquiao can legitimately lose to, it's Terrence Crawford. I think he's going to lose to Terrence Crawford, but the fact that the fight's being made, that's a good fight. It's such a good fight. But now Teofimo Lopez's pay per view against his mandatory, right, on Triller and all. I know there's going to be a show, there's going to be a DJ, there's going to be all this cool kind of bells and whistles, all of these cool bells and whistles in the show, for sure. But can it compete with the Manny Pacquiao and Terrence Crawford fight? I mean, personally, I'm gonna order both. I'm going to watch both because I'm a boxing fan. Clearly, I mean, I have a podcast. I love boxing. I'm around boxing. I just love consuming boxing content. And when there's more fights, the more the merrier, right? As a fan, there's never a situation where there can be too much. However, given the climate, given the pandemic, given the certain circumstances that have arisen, I really think that at this point, both fights are going to cannibalize one another. And it's quite frankly a shame because think about the implications of the Terrence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao. The major qualm I have and quarrel I have with Terrence Crawford is he hasn't fought anyone at 147, right? And by far, Manny Pacquiao is going to be the best fighter he's ever fought. Sure, it's not the Manny Pacquiao that, let's say, even fought Keith Thurman 2 years ago. We don't know what Pacquiao we're going to get. He's been out the ring. And to fight Terrence Crawford when you haven't been fighting um, right off the bench, right off of the couch, you really haven't been doing anything but focusing on your other aspects of your life, which is totally fine. And I commend Pacquiao for that. But to fight Crawford, if he were to beat Crawford, Manny Pacquiao truthfully would go down as a legend, right? He's a legend now, but his legend would just be astronomically bigger because to beat a pound for pound champion at 147 in his prime would send shockwaves through boxing. Number one, it would solidify that Pacquiao is one of the greatest, right? Because you have to give him credit. 8 division world champion. He lost to Mayweather. Okay. He lost to Marquez. He lost to a lot of good guys. But to leave your career beating Keith Thurman in his prime and Terrence Crawford in his prime would just add so much more luster to a magnificent career. I really can't believe it. If I don't think he's going to beat Crawford, but if he did, my God. And now Crawford is finally making his case in the 147-pound division. He can and finally will make a case for him to be a bigger side of the pie in the Errol Spence fight or any fight at 147. So this fight is tremendous for 147. It's tremendous for hardcore boxing fans. It's tremendous for the casual who's going to see Pacquiao fight Crawford. They know both names. But what does that mean for Teofimo? Right? It's his first time on Triller. They're betting a lot on this kid that he's going to sell a lot of pay-per-views. They're trying to get a big show going because Triller, they don't really care if the event makes money. I don't think people realize that. It's not about the boxing. The boxing is simply something that's trying to bring a spectacle to the name Triller. Triller's trying to disrupt an industry dominated by TikTok, dominated by Instagram with Reels, dominated in a space that Triller was one of the first movers. Before Reels, before TikTok, there was Triller. I remember 2015, people were doing things like making music videos, having fun, cutting stuff up. I remember Triller, but it never really got the big notoriety. But with the explosion of TikTok, the pandemic, they're really, really trying to get their name out there. And this is a perfect opportunity for that. So I don't think Triller really cares, but I think if it's not a success and Teofimo does get hurt, it's going to hurt his brand in the sense that he's no longer going to be the draw that he thinks he is. I personally hope that both events do well, and I really hope they don't cannibalize one another to the point where if Crawford Pacquiao doesn't sell well, Bob Arum has leverage saying that Crawford doesn't make him money, and all the bullshit he was spewing out was true, right? Teofimo Lopez doesn't generate a lot of pay-per-views. Now he has leverage against Teofimo saying, look, this is why I didn't want to pay you what Triller could pay you. You got to pay, you got to get paid what I think you deserve because this is what you generate. So when you take a bet on yourself, I get it. But now both guys really, really have to show up. And who honestly wins in this all? Bob Arum's laughing to the bank. He's showing that, you know what? You guys want to fuck with me? I've been in the business. I don't care about you guys. I'm already at the tail end of my career. You guys, truthfully, you can go with another promoter soon. Your contract's almost over. I'm probably going to retire. And truthfully, who cares if I don't have Teofimo Lopez or Terrence Crawford at the highlight of my career? I've had other fighters. I've had Lomachenko, Cotto, Mayweather, De La Hoya. You keep going down. His career in terms of fighters he's promoted is legendary. So Bob Arum right now is showing that look, the old guard is not just going to let these new kids just disrupt the industry. And boxing is so political, and I know people hear it, but when you really really look at the way people move, it's literally like dirty politics. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. I think Teofimo and Terrence are going to kill it. I think both fights are good for boxing. And you know what? Honestly, even if they struggle a little bit, I just implore you to support both events so both of these guys can get promoted the way they're supposed to because both guys are box office. Terrence Crawford needs to fight the best. And if he fights Pacquiao, it's a mega fight. We got to support that. And if Teofimo Lopez fights George Gombosos, that event's going to be worth it. It's not going to be the 89.99 that the pay-per-view would be otherwise if Teofimo was fighting someone else. So I think this fight in both fights, Bob Arum's gonna do what he gotta do. But I'm gonna be honest with you, Bob Arum gives no fucks, and he's showing that. He just doesn't. And I don't blame him because he's at the highlight of his career. He's kind of going away. He can tell that he's losing grips, and fighters are getting privy to his tactics. And sure, he has done a good job. He has promoted some of the greats, but it's a new time. And I think more and more fighters are starting to realize that you don't need crazy promotion. You don't need to give all the percent you give to your manager, especially when you hit a certain level. Promoters certainly get you in front of people. They certainly build you up to a certain level. But once you reach a certain level, you got to realize these guys are taking way more than they deserve. At a certain point, you start becoming the brand. And once you kind of control your brand, you're the master of your own destiny. But that's the episode for today. I just kind of wanted to touch on that and let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Follow the boxing podcast at Good Boxing Podcast on Instagram and the YouTube channel, Good Boxing Podcast. Thank you so much. Feels good to be back, and I'm just going to keep flowing with these. And I just wanted to kind of touch on this because, quite frankly, Bob Arum, well played, man. I got to sit here and say you're really not going out without a fight, Teofimo. I thought he played you, and I thought a lot of people were going to start playing you. But if you start doing stuff like this where you're sacrificing your best talent just to prove a point that you still got the power and you don't care. I don't agree with it. It's not something I would do, but wow, Bob Arum. Have a good day.